Hey, now this is Ned Nebuchadnezzar, and this is a spoiler alert. So I'm not at the shop right now. I'm down the street in this private residential area because I want to tell you guys that if you want to hear, don't want to hear this spoiler alert for this great movie that just came out that got a lot of controversy to it, you might want to stop right here. Somebody said part of it got a Panther involved with it, and the other part may have black. So if you don't really want to hear this spoiler alert because you haven't seen the movie yet, then I'm going to give you time to check out. All right, that's enough time. Okay, listen. Now this story, let me tell you something about this movie. Now this story took place a long time ago, but I understood what they was trying to do inside of the movie. In the beginning, they had a good spot where they had it was in Oakland, California, and these guys was playing basketball out in the field, or what do you call it, in the parking lot somewhat. And this is a very controversial story, so you guys might want to listen up for a little bit. And for those of you that don't really want to pay to go see the movie because you're cheap or something like that and don't want to be supportive, but I've already supported and I'm going to support some more by promoting it this way like this to tell everybody to go out and see the movie regardless to what I'm telling you. But anyway, inside of this story, I'm going to do this for somebody that I love quite a bit who asked me to do such a thing. So this one's for you. But kids playing basketball, they had a milk carton type box that they was using for a basket, and they go do a little layup like that. So they let us know there was a milk carton box that they was playing with. Now, it was a sky high rise or something like that, an apartment complex that was right across from it, where there was a building and folk lived inside of this place, I reckon. And when you go inside the apartment, it was getting late. There was two fellows that was standing there. Both of them had automatic weapons and things like that, kind of nervous or whatever they call themselves doing. And looking out the window like that, if anybody's ever seen that poster of the guy that was in the movie, the Black Panther, I just now got that. They stood in the movie like Huey P. Newton stood in the what do you call it, in the door window seal with the automatic weapon. That was something that was bonus right there. Somebody should pay me just for that part right there by itself. But they thought they heard this noise and some sound, and all of a sudden, doom, 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 doom. Somebody knocked on the door, like, and they was a little bit nervous. And then when they go and look, the one fellow went to go and look, the one I guess he wasn't the leader part, looked through the peephole like yet, and he said, it's like two African women or whatever. So open up the door. So he opened up the door, and they come in, and they powerful looking women, and strong and upright, look like they got potassium and stuff inside of their bones, and like they really strong. And so they're looking for these Rwanda leaders and whatnot. Now these two guys, actually the one guy that was the leader guy, I guess I'm gonna call him, he was the one they was looking for. And then all of a sudden the king of Rwanda comes in behind them, and he's upset because this fella that was in the movie that we was talking about, that was inside of his room, that looked like the Huey P. Newton thing, he was supposed to have been doing some assignment, and he did. I reckon this fella didn't do the right job. So they end up chastising him and questioning him, and he put his lip down like this or something like that, and he had these blue numbers or something, like letters or whatever. Nick, help me out. Was they letters or numbers? Something like that. Numbers or something inside of his mouth, or blue numbers. And so they knew that he was a relative or a family member of theirs. And so I guess he hadn't been cooperating or doing what he was supposed to be sent there to do, to get a job or something done. So he finds out that the other fella that was with him ends up kind of turning on him a little bit, and was assigned also to help out, to look out in addition to what this one fellow was supposed to do. Since he didn't get the job done, the other guy did. So the first fellow got mad. He was upset, and he pulled his gun out on the guy to kill the other guy that had been a roommate or whatever with him for a long time, because that guy did like this too. And he had some numbers and letters or whatever inside his mouth. had to ask my son Ian about that, Nick about that. But he had letters in his mouth, blue letters or blue numbers or something like that. If you have seen the movie, you know what I'm talking about. And then so it was a surprise to the other fella. And then so he went to try to pull his gun out to try to kill the other guy. And the king of Rwanda took his hand and like put it on his chest or something like that. And it looked like he had gave him a stamp of approval or something like that. And the fella went down. And next thing we knew, he was dead. And the other guy was a person who was qualified, I guess, to have provided this little serum or something that they had, a little tube, kind of like the thing you do when you go to the bank or something like that, and you put it through that little shoe, kind of like that. It was a little serum thing, like, I don't know, well, Nick, was that blue or green or some kind of substance in there? But nonetheless, it was some kind of a powerful thing that they wanted to use, titanium or something, I don't know. But anyway, so that happens, and so now the other guy, fella, and the Rwanda guy, and the two ladies, they get back on this ship. It was on top of the house, and the little boys that looked up at it, they was all amazed that when they seen it, and this thing takes off. Now, what we didn't know was a son was left behind. The guy that was laying on the ground that was dead, he had a son that was still there, that was left behind. I reckon nobody cared nothing about him. But anyway, let me try to move forward. Then there became a new king. And he was in a position because the old king had died, and so this new guy was trying to qualify for the king, who was his son. And they put his son in this water or whatever. He was standing in this water, and people was on top of this little mountain type thing on the side, and they was clapping, they was doing some things like this, and it was pretty sweet. They was like rocking back and forth or whatever they was doing, something like that. Either you've seen the movie, you might know a little bit what I'm talking about. But so anyway, they say, anybody want to challenge this new king? Nobody said nothing at first. But also there was 4 tribes, and then one of the tribes didn't want to cooperate with the program. So in the beginning, it was pretty sweet. They had these little figures. I don't know what that was, dirt or little diamonds or pearls or whatever it was. But they ended up showing this little tribe. They went off about their business, and these other 3 tribes kind of stayed together. So there's one tribe that went off. It was the king of that tribe. He said, I'll challenge the king for the crown. So he comes out there, big fella, whatever. People surrounded, and the ladies was on one side supporting the new king, and they had these little spears and things like this. They were ready to go. And then on this side of where the new fella was, the guy that wanted to become the king, the big fella from the one tribe that had left out, they had these big fellas had these spears like this, and each one of them, they would get a little bit closer. So they started to fight. To make a very long story short, the new king had this challenger guy up on the side of it looked like Niagara Falls or something like that. And he said, why don't you give? Why don't you give quick? And the guy tapped out like that, and he let him go and told him that you're more valuable to your people if you're still alive. The guy thought about him and tapped out. So he won that battle and became king. His sister, who was probably one of the most noticeable characters in the film, she was like a technology person and also a modern day kind of a person as well over here in Rwanda. You gotta remember, this was a great place, technology, smart people. They had their own little environment, their own little globe, and a little cube and thing that they kind of sat in. And from the outside, it looked like they just was farmers, like farmland, like they didn't know what they was doing and all that type of stuff. But it was just a smoke screen in this movie, and they really was really high-powered people, trailway systems and all kind of things that was, technology was way advanced. But anyway, so she was a pretty joking kind of a person. She didn't really, her brother was a king, but she still treated him like her big brother or something like that. And so she created these suits and things like they did for Batman and whatnot. And she told him, why don't you go ahead and kick the suit and then hit the suit? And the guy, that's the, the superhero guy, he kicked the thing and the thing went flying like 30,000 miles or something like that. He said, oh my gosh, why did you do that? So he ran over there. She ran over there and picked it back up, set it down. She pushed the button or something like that. Go ahead and hit it again. This time he loaded up to get ready to hit it again. Boom! This time he shot backwards about 90 feet or something like that. because she had made the thing stereo, like almost like she had put a steel rod or something through it, and it wouldn't go move like it was a statue at that point. So she just was proving that the outfit or whatever was a little bit different shape and design. But he had a woman that he was in lust of, and he said, hey, listen, once I get ready to become king, now I'm telling this story backwards and forwards, sideways and all this type of stuff. Once I get ready to become king tomorrow, I would like for you to be at the event. And so he asked her that, and she said, okay, I'll be supportive because I support you. I support your family and all that type of stuff. So she came and was very supportive. I thought it was nice. She was an ex-girlfriend of his, an ex-girlfriend. I think he liked her and things like that, but he couldn't really come right out and say it to her, because I think he might have been afraid, trying to establish or reestablish a relationship with her. But she was a very powerful individual, and she was happy about helping the free world. So she was just like the other guy who I'm going to call the Barbarian King, who comes along a little bit later on, who was that little bitty boy that was up in that apartment up there in Oakland or whatever. But she was interested in helping the free world. Now, what I don't know is if these new king, his sister, and all of these people was interested in helping the free world. Now, that's dialogue or some conversation that's going to get everything sparked up. But there was another character. This female was a powerful woman. She might have been one of the best characters in the movie. She was bald-headed and had some kind of design. She did a couple of things that was pretty phenomenal. One, she had on a wig when she went into this, I don't know, they was in China, Japan, someplace like that. Nick helped me out. But they was in there, she had a wig on, and she said, oh, I don't know how anybody wears this. So that was a nice little shot at people who maybe wear wigs or something like that, because she wanted to be natural and keep things natural. And then they was in this car scene. She also said another line that was pretty powerful. They was driving or whatever, and she made a joke about how primitive they are with their guns and things like that. And I thought that was pretty powerful during these times to make a joke about that guns don't really have any value. Can y'all hear me? That they really didn't have any value in this community and things that they was doing. But that was phenomenal. So those characters. Now let's talk about the Barbarian King for a minute. This was the young man that was in Oakland who came in and witnessed his father had been killed or was dead or something like that. Nobody really knew what happened. I'm going to assume he was an orphan or whatever and didn't have a whole lot of support. But guess what he did do? When he got grown, he ended up graduating from MIT University, which was a very prominent school. Shout out to L. Nigris and Polo Meinstein and everybody else that came out of MIT. Those are my boys and whatnot. So he graduated from there, and then he had all these bumps and stuff on his body, almost like he had a heat rash or something. But it was actually called keels. So he had a whole bunch of them all over the place with these muscles. I don't know if this was a suit or whatnot. But anyway, so he was announced that he had graduated from MIT, all these keels, and he challenged the king. Hey, I want to be the king. And he moved his bottom lip like that. And he showed that he was qualified because he had them blue numbers and stuff in his mouth, or blue letters or whatever. Asked my son Nick. And so I wasn't for sure, but he had these letters, so he wanted to challenge the king. He said, I accept your challenge. They go out there to where the Niagara Falls water's at again. And this barbarian guy said, get over here. Boom. He give it up, boom, boom. He take the new king, put him on his shoulders like this, because he had told him earlier, man, I've been waiting for this all my life. Now, I felt bad for the king. I didn't know if he was going to be in trouble or not, going to be able to survive this. But this new barbarian king takes the king, just flips him over his shoulder off the side of the Niagara River, the Niagara Falls thing, and he just falls down there. Now, later on, he became the barbarian. Well, he became the barbarian king, and these people was, you guys are going to worship me. I'm your new king. I'm your new king now. So these people didn't, most of the people didn't want to celebrate him being the new king for the way that he got it. But the fellow that was the referee guy in the middle ended up being the uncle guy who was responsible for the barbarian king father died. And then so now he said, don't kill him first. And it was me. I'm the one that's responsible for your father dying. So then he ended up, he killed him too. And then boom, and he was gone. And that's when he picked the king up and threw him over the thing. I almost forgot that part. A lot of stuff going on in this movie, and I ain't even really scratched the surface. But nonetheless, this was a very good movie, and you guys got to go and see it and be very supportive. And so the Barbarian King is ruler. He's running things, and they had this little flower thing, that's like a little blue flower thing, and they buried him inside of the thing, and he was up under there, and they had these dreams, these visions. And so he had a vision of him being a little bitty boy again and going into the closet in Oakland and looking in there and seeing this book or whatever that his father had. And his father was sitting there telling him, why are you going through my things? But anyway, he looked through and he said, well, what did you find? So he's looking in there and he finds this necklace that he had on that he wore. Oh, by the way, it was this guy, what was his name? Crumley? Oh man, I forgot the guy's name. But anyway, it was this fellow who was causing problems for like 30 years or so. The new Barbarian King, boom, 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 kills him, takes him out, and drags his body back up to that guy that played and get out. And said, here, boom, here's your body, right there. And they was happy because this guy was explaining to the folks in the government or whatnot about this titanium and all of these other types of things that was there. And I'm not going to go too much into the people who was in the movie that may not should have been in the movie, who played prominent parts, who end up being responsible for flying airplanes. Here's this brother come in from Oakland, California, and he even got the thing in his lip when he wasn't even accepted in the community. And there's some people that allows us to walk right in there and do whatever they want, but that's a whole nother story. But anyway, this movie was a really good movie, and the guy that was the Barbarian King was running things, and they end up having a war or whatnot. Some of the ships that he was getting ready to fly off and take this little titanium and go out there, he really wanted to help the people in the free world because he wasn't used to having much for himself, but he wanted to take all of these resources that they had in Rwanda and try to go out and help the people out there, the people in Oakland, Cleveland, Cincinnati, Detroit, Michigan, and places like Gary, Indiana, and stuff like that. Wanted to help those folks. You know, the ones that's in the suburban, in the urban school districts and things like that, Shaw High School or whatnot. Guys that come from John Adams, Whitney Young, all these types of places and stuff like that. He wanted to help these people. So I commend him on that part of the process. But anyway, I'm not going to keep going on this story. I'm going to stop it right here. This was enough. Y'all probably are tired of hearing Nebuchadnezzar. But let me say this before I get out of here. For anybody that made it this far, I'd like to applaud you. We're going to leave it. We're going to leave it at this point. Y'all got to go and see it. It's a 31-year-old guy that made this movie. He made Fruitvale thing also and Creed. And I've been using this, what's his name, Michael Jordan guy as a main character that he's been using for a while. So shout out to all of the actors, actresses, the director, and everybody go out and be supportive. I've heard it's made a whole lot of money this first weekend. I hope it make a whole lot of money this next weekend. Y'all go ahead and keep getting that money. Y'all keep on being successful. Black Panther is a good movie. Go out and check it out. And if you get a chance to buy it when they make it into a video, go ahead and buy the video or whatever and be supportive of that whole thing. And that's what I want to say. I'm an advocate for the movie. Y'all give me some comments or whatever. First of all, you got to subscribe to Cold Crown, KOLDKROWN. Go ahead and subscribe to that. Like the button like that, the blue thing up like that, and scroll all the way down to the bottom. And then make a comment, and we can talk about the movie Black Panther and how innovative it is for you and what you got out of it and what you've seen and what was the most important part to you and the scene that you remember the most and all of these other types of things. But it was a very, very good movie. I'm totally supportive of it. I like the whole thing from the beginning to the end, from the ruler to the tutor and everything else in between. So y'all go ahead and check that movie out and check me out and do whatever y'all want to do. There's as much love coming from me. All right, y'all take care.